Hi guys, so I'm Vania, and today I'm just making this video kind of to tell my story on when I was diagnosed with lupus and kind of what I've gone through since then. I know for a lot of you who follow my blog about my life with lupus, I promised this video a really long time ago. And I apologize for that. I've been really busy with like school, friends, and family, and just life in general. So today, I finally got an opportunity to do this video. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And I can get right into my story. I was first diagnosed when I was in 4th grade. I was 10 years old at the time. I've currently been living with systemic lupus for 10 years now. This December will be 11 years. One of the very first symptoms that I had before I was diagnosed was joint pain. At the time, we didn't know it was joint pain, but it came to be that was one of the first symptoms that I had. At the time, I was really into tetherball. I don't know if all of you guys know what tetherball is, but it's basically a sport in which there's a pole and a ball is attached to a string to that pole, and you just kind of hit it around the pole going either way, right or left. And you kind of have an opponent, and your goal is to get the ball around the entire pole. At the time, that was something that I was really into at recess, and I was playing that a lot. And so my mom and I figured that I was probably playing too hard or too rough, or I was playing too much of it, so that's the reason why my hands were hurting. So I completely stopped playing tetherball after that, and the pain continued. So that obviously wasn't it. So after I stopped doing that, I started complaining about a lot of shoulder and back pain, and I was missing a lot of school on and off at this point, but we still didn't really know what it was. It got to a point where I was missing a bit too much school, where my mom took me to the doctors. Once I went to the doctor found nothing seemingly wrong with me. She said I was healthy, and by the way, this was just like a pediatrician. This wasn't like at a hospital or anything. This is just a pediatrician. And she said that there was nothing wrong with me. And she told my mom actually that it was probably just growing pain. But my mom didn't believe that so much at all, because the pain that I was in was excruciating pain. I was literally sitting there in my room crying for hours because my hand pain, my back pain, my shoulder pain, whatever was hurting was excruciating. And it wasn't going away. It wasn't like it was just for a couple of days. At first it was, but then it just continued. And it continued on for weeks and weeks. And it didn't go down. So all she said was it was growing pain. So after that, going in for the hands, later my back began to curve because my back was in so much pain. I was kind of getting a slumped over back. I wasn't standing up straight anymore. So we went in to the doctors for that. And the doctor again told us that there was nothing wrong with me. And at this point, my mom was very frustrated and very, confused, because the blood test and all the tests that they were examining on me said that there was nothing wrong with me. But physically and obviously looking at me, you could tell that there was something wrong. Whenever we would go into the doctors, and let me tell you, we had been going into the pediatrician maybe twice or even 3 times a week at this point, because every day there was something new that was bothering me. One night it would be my hand pain would get excruciating off the root. And then the next day when we would go into the doctors, it would be my back, or it'd be my shoulders, or it'd be my feet. And every day it was like something completely new. Nothing was ever like the same pain going in. So it was really, my mom felt like she was going insane because she felt like she'd call in one day saying, my daughter is having this pain. She'd go in the next day and be like, well, actually, it turns out it's here. So after a couple of months of that kind of on and off, like pain, just not even knowing what's going on, I just stopped going to school completely. I wasn't able to walk anymore after a couple months. The pain had completely destroyed my lack of energy. I was so drained and debilitated from the pain and constantly having pain and not having relief that I just completely stopped getting off of my bed in general. I lost a lot of weight and still not knowing what I had. So at this point, I stopped going to school, and I actually ended up losing 2 months of school. So, and the way that school goes, I'm sure everyone knows, it's a fast-paced, moving kind of education plan. So I lost a lot of school, and I got really behind, but I wasn't able to even get off of my bed, let alone go to school and continue school. By the end of it, I was a good maybe 40 pounds underweight. I wasn't eating anymore. I didn't have energy to do anything. I didn't want to go out and play. And for a 10-year-old, going to play, seeing their friends, watching TV, like all of that sort of stuff is fun. I wasn't doing any of it. I was sleeping all day. That's all I was doing. I was sleeping all day. I didn't have the energy to even open my eyes anymore. I was completely a mess and in so much pain all the time. And I started running fevers constantly. Almost every night I was hitting 101 and higher temperatures. And when I would get antibiotics, sometimes the antibiotics would work, but most of the time my fever just would grow or just stay. So it wasn't really doing anything for me. I started developing a rash too. I got a rash on my chest and in a few other spots too. And when we went into the doctors again to get it checked out, they just said that I was fighting an infection. They didn't really know what infection, but they knew I had an infection because of the symptoms I was having, the fever and the rash. So they gave me a stronger medicine for that, but that didn't really do anything. And I was still having the pain of my hands and my back, and every day was a different thing. So I had been doing that. Eventually, we went to go see another doctor, different doctors, to get a different opinion because my mom knew that something wasn't right here. It wasn't something normal anymore. It wasn't something you could just, it wasn't like a cold or a flu, something. It was just temporary. Something was really wrong with her kid. So we went to go see another doctor. This doctor, let me tell you, he didn't see kids on a regular. He usually sees older patients or adults. But he had heard how sick I was and how underweight and how long we had been going through this without any answers, that he promised my mom that he would see me. Although he didn't have the right equipment and medical requirements at the building we were going to meet him at, to diagnose me, he took one look at me. He heard my mom's story on what had been going on for all these months, and he looked at my mom. He said, "It's lupus." And my mom was so confused. She was like, "What's that?" She was like, "Can I have medicine for it?" And he said, "No, no, no." And he got a piece of paper and he told her, "You have to go to Children's Hospital of Los Angeles today." He said, "Go home, pack up, take her to Children's Hospital, and don't go home. Whatever you do, do not go home. This little girl is really sick." My mom was like, "Okay." And so she did. She took me to Children's Hospital. Once I was taken to Children's Hospital, they admitted me right away. They did see that I was really sick, and they admitted me. So I got into a room, and they started doing treatment on me for the arthritis that I was having. I started responding very well to treatment. I started, getting fluids back into me. I started getting food into my system, and I started just recovering slowly from it. We were at the hospital for a week because they wanted to kind of just see if I was going to stay stable or what was going to go on with the treatment, if I was going to respond fully. So we stayed for a week at the hospital. After that week was over, they saw that I was doing really well, and so they were ready to send me home after that week. On the very last day, my mom was doing paperwork, getting ready to take me out of the hospital so I could come back home. The night before we were ready to go home, I had a seizure. A horrendous seizure. I was in a coma after that seizure for a week. After that, I didn't go home. I stayed at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles for 2 months after that. And when I woke up, I didn't remember. I didn't remember who my mom was. I didn't remember who my dad was or my sister. Sorry. I didn't remember who anyone was. I had to relearn everything. I had to relearn how to speak. I had to relearn how to walk. I had to be potty trained again, and at 10 years old, it was pretty traumatic because I woke up and I was so confused. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know who the heck these people were that were surrounding my bed. I didn't know anything. I was practically a newborn, and it was really hard. Just relearning everything, and yeah, so after I had awoken from the seizure and my coma, I stayed at the hospital for 2 months. They gave me treatment, and they knew at this point that I did have lupus. When I had gone into the hospital at that point, they took a look at my kidneys, and they saw that there are 3 stages in which your kidneys can be at, that determine at which level of how bad your kidneys are. And I was at stage 2. Stage 3, if you're at stage 3, you pretty much need to get dialysis for your kidneys. So luckily I was put into the hospital just in the nick of time, where I wasn't going to need dialysis or going to need a transplant. So they put me right away on the medications. They put me on treatments, and they were round the clock monitoring me. And my mom stayed with me at the hospital for 2 months. She never left my side. My dad and my little sister would come visit me whenever they could. My dad was working. My sister was going to school. My dad would pick her up from school, come visit me, and stay with me by my bed. And then they'd drive home in the middle of the night. And it was like that for 2 months. That was our lives. The hospital was our lives. We were just trying to get me better. We spent Christmas and New Year's that year at the hospital. The hospital made us feel very welcomed and very safe there. They always took very good care of me and my family. They brought in a Santa Claus to kind of like share toys and gifts with the kids. They knew that I was an animal lover and that I'm a dog lover, so they would bring in like therapy dogs to come visit me at my hospital bed. So I have pictures too that my mom has of me like with those dogs, and so that was really great to have that. So yeah, I stayed there for 2 months, and I just kind of hung in there until I was ready to go home. Yeah, so after 2 months of just all those all those treatments and just monitoring me and to make sure that my kidneys were back and stable, and just making sure that I was responding correctly to medicines, I went home. When I had came home, I had my friends and even my neighbor, they made me a little sign. My cousin, she at the time was living next door, so they all were really excited to see me come home. They had a little sign for me, "Welcome home, Vania," and it was the sweetest thing. I was really weak at that point. I wasn't strong enough to be walking. I had been laying in a hospital bed for 2 months, so you can imagine that my bones were really weak and my joints were really weak. I was awake and I was alive, thankfully, but I was still very weak. So I came home in a wheelchair, and they let me know that life was going to be a lot different, that they told my mom when she goes home, she needs to eat healthier. She has to get physical education. She's going to need therapies for probably a long time, and she's going to need a lot of you being there and being strong for her, because life when you go home isn't going to be the same. Vania has lupus, and you need to take care of her. And just seeing everything we went through, my parents did exactly that. They took care of me every day since then. We've been eating a lot healthier now, and just putting a lot of better foods and a different diet into our lives now, so that I and my family can be healthier. So yeah, once I was back home, I stayed home and did homeschooling, because like I said before, I was too weak to be getting up and going to school physically. So I was doing homeschooling at that time. It was still 4th grade around that time, so I was just doing that from home. Eventually, I did go back to school, and that was really hard. That was really hard. The seizure had me and my brain really screwed up. My memory was horrible. If you asked me what I had for breakfast around lunchtime, I probably couldn't tell you, because my memory was that bad. It was so hard for me to remember little details and to remember things that had just happened a couple of hours ago. So let alone learning the lessons that they had at school, it was really hard for me. So going back to school was hard. Even remembering where I sat at school was hard. I couldn't remember. It was such a pain going to school. I hated going to school. When I had gone back to school, I didn't look the same as kids had remembered me. I had to be taking steroids for the inflammation that was going on in my body. These steroids, one of them, a lot of you may know, was prednisone. Prednisone is a very strong medicine. I was on a lot of it at the time. It gave me kind of a swollen face. So my cheeks were really puffy, and I was a little bit overweight, just because one of the side effects to the medicine is it gives you the sensation that you're hungry all the time. So I would overeat all the time. So I had gone from underweight, not eating anything, to eating too much and being overweight. So that's how I went back to school looking very different. So the kids were kind of put off guard by it. Like, they didn't know what was going on, let alone myself. I didn't know what was really going on at that point. I just knew I was sick. And, yeah, so school was really hard going through that. I was really tired all the time. Like, I started off not even going to school, like, full day. I probably could only make it to, like, 1 at first. Like, I couldn't make it till 3 o'clock. It was too hard. Going from 8 to 3 was too long of a day for me. So I just started doing kind of half day thing and then started easing into till 3 o'clock. So I did that for a while. And at the same time, I was going to physical and speech therapy because I've been having no physical activity for so long. I was going to physical therapy at a elementary school to regain that strength and regain my muscle structure. So I was doing that for a really long time. I also went to speech therapy at Children's Hospital, and I would do that once a week just to work with building vocabulary again and building memory strength again. Because, like I said, my memory was that bad. So yeah, I was doing that for a good few months, maybe even, I was doing that for maybe 2 years, I would say, both of it. And so eventually I got off of those therapies, because I graduated and they saw that I was a lot stronger and I was a lot healthier and my memory wasn't as bad, and I learned tricks like flashcards. I learned memory games and stuff that just helps me to regain my strength in physical activity and my memory and my speech. So, yeah, so once I finished elementary school, I went on to middle school. Middle school for me was a whole new world. Like, there were much older kids, there was the whole changing classrooms thing, there was the whole PE thing. So middle school was another story for me. Going into middle school, that was really hard. I'm sure a lot of you know that middle school kids can be mean. I think that's like one of the hardest, like, areas of age to go through, middle school, because you go through a lot in those 3 years. You go through a lot, and I was going through a lot more than any of the kids were ever going to go through. I was dealing with this new health issue, and I was dealing with the new school and a new way of life. So at that time, 6th grade was probably the hardest, I would say, yeah. Because I had to learn how to deal with 6 different classes. Not just English and math anymore. It was 6 classes, 6 new seats, 6 new teachers, and it was like explaining the whole, like, I'm going to be absent sometimes kind of thing because I'm sick and all of this. So those were really hard years. When I was in 7th grade, though, luckily I got into remission. And yeah, so I got into remission, and after that, the swelling in my face went down a lot. And I felt a lot more better about myself at that time. I wasn't so sad and depressed and hating kind of life, because just going through everything, I hated all of it, and I hated, like, losing friends because I'd been gone for so long. I just hated going through all the health. Like, why do I have to go through this? Why do I have to watch what I eat? Why do I have to take these medicines? Why do I have to look like this kind of thing? So by 7th grade, I had gone down a lot on my prednisone, so the swelling on my face had gone down a lot. I also had lost a lot of weight, and my memory was a lot better, so school was easier for me. And I already had the thrive to work hard in school, because I knew I had to work hard in school just to keep up with everyone, with missing school and my memory not being so great, I know I had to work hard. So 7th grade, I almost pulled all A's and B's by the end of the year, and I was really happy. I had worked really hard all year. I also didn't go to summer school that year, so I was really happy. 8th grade, luckily I got to graduate on time and promote to high school with my class, and that was great. Going into high school was great. At that time, I had been in remission for a good couple years, and that was great. And then I had my freshman year, and that was great. Freshman year, the summer going into sophomore year, I had kind of a spill down. That summer, I started having a lot of back pain. It was just my back. I just started feeling all this back pain. I couldn't sleep anymore. It was just constant, horrendous back pain. It was almost like, I know a lot of girls would get this, like when you're on your period and your lower back hurts. It was like that. But it was all over my back, and it never went away. It was horrible. It didn't matter if I slept on my stomach. It didn't matter if my parents bought me a new mattress even. That didn't matter. Like, my back was killing me all the time. And even I had to be put on my really strong meds just to knock me out because I couldn't take it anymore. My back had been killing me. So I went to my doctor at Children's, and after a good couple of weeks, they figured out that I had fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is basically overactive nerve pains that just send signals to my body that I'm in pain. So that was fun, going through that. Luckily, I was put on Lyrica. And once I was put on Lyrica, after a good few months, the pain went away, and I was able to be stable again. So then my junior year, I went back to school. And I was able to continue school. That was good. And then the beginning of my senior year, I started noticing that almost like trigger finger, but my fingers would get locked up. I would get one finger locked up like in this position exactly, and it would stay there for like a good few hours. And I couldn't, even if I tried to pop it back open, I couldn't get it to pop open. And if I did try, it was so painful. And I had that happen to me like once in a while. Then it started happening more often with more fingers. And after a good few months, it was my whole hand was stuck like this, and I couldn't open it. And after it happened to me like once or twice, my hand locking up, it got to a point where it locked up and it didn't open again. It never opened again. And I had gone to see doctors, and they were like, your arthritis is fine. Like, you don't have arthritis. Like, they would do constant blood tests, and they'd be like, you don't have arthritis. And I'm like, well, then what is it? Because, like, no one understood what I was going through, because the arthritis and my labs were fine. I was still in remission. And so they're like, it's not your lupus. It's not your fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia doesn't lock up your fingers. And, trigger finger is only 1 or 2 fingers. It's not your whole hand. So eventually I went to go see a hand specialist. Once the hand specialist kind of asked me a couple of questions on what had been going on and kind of looked at my fingers, she knew exactly what it was. It was flexor synovitis. Flexor synovitis is when your tendons build a lot of like tendon inflammation, and it builds up so much where your finger has this flex where you can bend like this. It builds up, and so it makes it impossible for you to open and shut your finger. So I basically had that on my whole hand. And it was on my right hand, so I couldn't write. So I stopped going to school. I was on a waiting list for like a good 2 months to get a surgery done. I had gone a lot of I got a lot of infusions done to kind of just like give me a little kick and try to get my hands open. That worked once or twice, but after a while it didn't do anything. My body kind of just built more inflammation in my hands, and I wasn't able to regain strength in my hand anymore and open up. So I had to be homeschooled my senior year for part of the year. And once I got my hand surgery done, I was on bed rest for a good week. After a week, I said, I want to go back to school. I want to finish my senior year. I want to go back. I want to have prom. I want to finish. I did not work my butt off all high school and all of middle school and all of my elementary school years just to not graduate on time with my friends and have prom and have like all this stuff that I've been waiting for all these years to do. So I went back to school. I worked my butt off, and in the middle of the year I had to have a second surgery because then my left hand decided to screw me over and do the same thing. So this hand got locked up as well. So I had a second surgery done. So having 2 surgeries done my senior year, I managed to graduate on time with a 3.5 GPA. So I was really happy. I got to graduate with my friends and on time and do all that. So yeah. Right now I'm 20. I'll be 21 in September. And yeah, I'm in my second year of college right now. I've been 6 years under remission now. So, and I'm still taking medicine, but I'm not taking as much as in the beginning. And as you can tell, like I've been through a lot, and I still have my battles every day. I still have hand pain. I still have fatigue. I still have my issues like being careful under the sun, going to school, getting sick sometimes. But I mean, I keep pushing forward. I have my friends for support, my great parents, my little sister that supports me, my family, my friends, my boyfriend. He's very supportive. And so I have all these people to thank, and my doctors, the great doctors of Children's Hospital, have been great support system for me. And so I hope that this story in any way, as difficult it may be to talk about it for me at times, I wanted to use it to inspire others to do what they can to spread awareness for this disease. I've lost a friend to it. I have a cousin who has it, and it's still really hard to diagnose. And I still meet people who don't know anything about it. So I use my story to kind of inspire and to build awareness for this awful illness. And I hope that one day we will find a cure, and this helps any other girls out there to know that you're not alone, that, there's other girls going through it as young as 10, and I've met girls younger, and I've met women older who've had it. It doesn't matter when you get it, it's hard regardless. And so I pray and I hope that you guys continue to push forward and spread awareness. And I hope that this was insightful and informational and helpful in any way possible to anyone listening. So thanks, guys, for listening. And I hope you guys have a great day. All right, bye. See you guys soon.